Hey everybody, Everett's live music. Coming to you on the 12th day of December, 12/12/23. It's the closing of COP today, 28, over in Dubai. I caught some of the stuff. I'm not a climatologist. I'm not a hydrologist either. I've mentioned before, if you go back far enough, start in March with World Wildlife Day, and move through some of the stuff for where I'm coming from on this. But I did follow some of it. It sounds like they're going to come up way short on phasing out fossil fuels. So it's like there's still an argument, a heavy argument, that it's not really happening. The global warming, and when we say global warming, we mean climate change that has been affected directly from us. The heating, of the average temperature of the planet and such matter. I tried to share a couple different perspectives on this and a couple different ideas, and then I'd like to just make sure you understand that it's not just one thing from my angle. I think that's very unfortunate. I got to talk to some people yesterday, so I did about probably 25, maybe 30 people yesterday, mostly adults, but I got some teenagers in there, and then, maybe even a couple of kids that were like 12 or 13, so teenagers, but no one super young, but then some older people too. It seemed like the younger people, and that's not something to base what would they call that? A survey. It's not a survey. It's just I went out there and asked a few people. Nobody knew what COP28 is. No one. And from what I could gather, they're not teaching about it in school. Maybe they do talk about climate change, but they didn't. It's all right. You might say, and then I might say different, but I think we're still there as a people, and we're there as a people that holds on to the dollar. So that's really unfortunate. I tried to, I got into one conversation yesterday, and it happened. Actually, it wasn't one; it was many conversations. Quite a few people thought climate change is natural, and if you were to talk to a scientist would say the same thing. The planet changes. It has been changing forever, but it has taken billions of years for us to have what we have today. And yes, at times it changes. Sometimes catastrophically, sometimes slowly, sometimes, and we don't understand everything yet. This is an important thing. So when you're thinking about climate change and you say, well, the planet's been changing forever, and like one person, it'll fix itself. I said, yeah, maybe it'll get rid of us. I think I've mentioned that episodes way back, might just get rid of us if that's what the planet had to do to fix us, because I think like the planet's alive. It's like a living organism, and we are nothing more than just small organisms existing on it, like a cell in your body. And let me try to bring that to light again. Like you say, well, that's a little far-fetched and this and that. But on a cellular level in your body, if you learned about it through the pandemic, and that's where I picked it up, because I read some literature on stuff, right? So I pick up this idea of neutrophils that are cruising through our system, right? And they're looking for cells that are being compromised by a virus or something, and then when they find it, they are able to alert a macrophage, another cell, right? And that comes and starts the idea of we're going to attack this thing or investigate it. And maybe a scientist would say, well, that's kind of close. It's good enough, man, in layman's terms. It is. And that macrophage that comes after the neutrophil alerted our body that it's being attacked, right? And then it calls on T and B cells, and those come to fight the infection. So I just want to let you know that, like I always try to say, things start really small and then they go big, and you try to think about maybe perhaps when people argue the case, I think what you're arguing is a world that you think needs to keep going. We have not evolved from the kings and queens that far, man, and this dominance over one another. And when you talk about, say, at a climatologist thing, they would be speaking of 1% of the population contributes twice as much to the greenhouse gases and the emissions of CO2, in such manner, this climate change that we talk about that people are responsible for, right? And you got to think of this on a financial level, because this was one of the conversations I had. I didn't mention the macrofuges and all that. I just wanted to express that stuff happens a lot different than we understand sometimes, most of us, with viruses and different things, even your own body and its ability to react to certain situations. And while it doesn't have a mind of its own, how does the cell know what to do? How does a virus know what to do to us? I've mentioned before, I'll always go back to the rabies one, because when you're infected with that virus, it has the ability to affect your brain and then and create the saliva in your mouth, because that's how that virus keeps going. It's not an airborne virus. It's transmitted through the saliva, and normally biting and different things happen. Okay, however it gets to you, it's through that form, and somehow coded in that cell is the ability to do this. So let's go back now and get back on topic, which was when we're speaking of the idea of climate change being normal. And I've expressed in previous episodes before too, yes, it does happen, but what some of the scientists have found out and are proving is we are accelerating that. And we're not giving everything a chance to change, to change slowly with it. So we're accelerating like way too fast into this climate change that's happening, is what some people have said. And all I can say is I'm trying to gather information and present it on a non-biased manner. And I believe we live for money. We don't live for the better of us as a people. Because when you think of that 1%, right, and say there's 8 billion people on the planet, roughly, okay? Let's just call it 8 to make it easier for math. So if you have 8 billion people, 1% of them, so let's drop 2 zeros, right? And we're going to get to our 8% or our 1%. We're going to be at 80 million, I believe, if my math is correct. I don't think it's that hard. We're going to drop 2 zeros, right? Bloop, bloop, and put the 8 right there where that 0 was, and there we are. We're at 80 million people. Contribute twice as much to the problem as 4 billion people on the planet. Now this statement here comes to you in the form of, do you understand? And I didn't argue with this individual because it's not really my idea to change you at that moment. Yesterday I'm just trying to find out a little bit. And with this individual, I was just like, it's fine if you don't want to talk about it, or if, we need to talk. So I will, and if I take stuff out of context for him, I'm not labeling a person. So that will not be a problem. But from my understanding of the conversation was, this is normal. And then when I mentioned that 1% compared to 50% of the whole population, he expresses to me that those numbers can be, who really knows what those numbers mean? Well, what it means, and maybe I should have argued further, but I'm looking to get further through the conversation without, I haven't done a lot of that like live. But anyways, the idea being, And half of the people on the planet, now if you go to China and you go to India and you go to Africa and you go to South America and you go to all the islands on the planet, how many of them people are really poor? How many of those people you think have vehicles? How many of those people do you think, even if they have vehicles, even like in the United States of America, how many of us that are poor are able to just drive everywhere we want to go and just take weekend after weekend and jump plane after plane from here to there? And you'll see really quick, dude, that the number is probably really correct. Because most of us can't afford to do what some do, and those that can afford to do it are doing it on a grand scale. That dwarfs what any of us do. So many of them have private planes. I played that on the they brought the Indy here, right? The Indy cars, right? For the Grand Prix race, through Vegas and stuff, and they were talking about how the planes, there's going to be so many private jets, I don't think they'll get them all parked. I don't think there'll be enough room. Well, with the 3 airports and them being rich, I'm sure they'll make room. That's what I said. But it's a huge contributor at times. So I've heard, and like many of us, we don't exactly know, not unless we got really involved into some of the science, which we should probably look into perhaps doing. But I wanted to let's keep going with that conversation. So he doesn't believe that the 1% and the 50%, the numbers would be correct. But if you took a moment and thought about it, and then I know through my lifetime, dude, at the end of so many of those conversations, it's like, well, they shouldn't have so many people there. They shouldn't be doing this, or they should. It's something that's happened for a long time, man. It's so terrible to think that way, I think, for one. And then if you think of yourself as like a citizen of the United States of America, part of the Okotusoa tribe, as I'm going to call it, I like that, man. Because I needed to label that properly for myself, and I'm not trying to change anything for anyone. If you want to call yourself an American, fine. But so aren't the Canadians and the Mexicans. And the South American. We're all Americans. Okay? And then, so, even in the United States of America, we have so many poor. And it's such a... we are driven harder, I think, than a lot of people. And we contribute the most through history, through the history of contributing to the greenhouse gas effect and this climate change that we have accelerated is what's happening. Let's call it that. We've accelerated. And when we built our industries, our great industries, and we know that a lot of that went away, and our own people, our own great Americans, if you want to call it that, sold our own people out and moved their businesses to other countries because they can get cheaper labor. And through all of this moving around and constantly going, I recommended yesterday even, like, it's a total viable, like, it's real, dude. Like, why do we have to travel so far for so much money? For somebody like an independent contractor like me, I'm going to try and get work all over this valley. I pay my taxes, and I'm going to pay my licensing fees, and I'm going to pay all of these things, right, that are going to allow me to work. I have to carry insurance and all this. It's quite a bit of stuff, actually. It's interesting once you get into your own job and then, working for yourself. But you're traveling so far, and the whole idea is that you're going to have this financial struggle in life. This is what we've made of life, a financial struggle between one another. And I'm better than you, and I can offer more than you. And it's like this gimmick, dude. Why? So what I said was, why should I have to travel so far? But for some people, I think you just want so much more than others. And you wouldn't be happy with just, and you'd be so afraid, I think, of like some kind of socialistic government that's going to lead us to communistic government. And these labels we put on things, man, is terrible. these fears that we allow some of the great leaders and some of the media and stuff to instill in us. Like, I seen one for Greta Thunberg, the other day, like some pop-up, on the YouTube channel, and it's got her, she's almost crying, they take some picture of her. 32 climate facts that have been debunked or something. It quite possibly could be, and some of the models that they've made aren't happening as exactly as they said. Do you know how to model everything? I don't either, but we have to try models, and I would like to see how much of it is somewhat correct. Even if your numbers are off some, because it's like trying to predict the future, and we can't totally. But business as usual, and if you listen to me on a whole, is just more people, more land taken, less for the future. Eventually, you're taking everything from the planet that was here. Don't all of life have its place here? How long have we kept taking and taking and taking from, and pushing and pushing and pushing the other part of the world, which is all other life, aside, and push it back and just control it in a manner that it's unbelievable. And in the defense of that one conversation I would say yesterday, right? So, what I would say for that would be, it's not like we're against one another. I explained that in a conversation I had to at one point, and that's why I didn't push the 1% and the 50% of the population, because I don't really know myself. I haven't been into this, but I am for a moment supporting. And then like for Greta and different people and the young kids out there that are standing up, and it was like yesterday when I interviewed people, or the few people I did, it was almost all young people that knew what I was talking about somewhat, but they still didn't know what COP28 is, and they still don't really know what climate change means. And climate change means that we are affecting it. And I think one of our greatest effects on it is the way we've lived life around $1, and this idea that we have to be better, and you have to be better than this one. You would have to have standards, of course, in life. But for the most part in the United States of America, in the capitalism, it's, what they tell you would be, let's see, I did business way back when, right? And it's supply and demand. I took a business. I was going to college and everything when I was younger. That's so many years ago. But I did. I did well in accounting, and I got my English, and then I had to go. I couldn't afford to keep going to college, working 2 jobs and thrown out of my home. And then, anyways, but the idea being that it's crazy, isn't it? We're just going to be beholding to that, to the dollar and the competition. And we're against one another all the time, to one-up one another, to watch your back, to cover your ass. So much of our life is that way. And then we're against one another, and the big ones, the people with all the money and all the time and the resources, they're able to manipulate what's happening, I believe, to one level or another. They claim that they own the media and different stuff, and it was even an oil executive that put on the COP28, and they mentioned some good stuff, I guess, but not enough. Not enough for us to stay below the numbers that we're projecting will be, and they'll be like, right, you're projecting that, and then they'll take one model or something, and we are easily manipulated. You got to see, man, this is like on such a grand scale. And I mentioned yesterday was like, why? Why do I have to go so far? Why? Because that's how you're going to make the most money. Or maybe you just don't want to be at home. I wonder about that too. Do you just not want to be at home? Is it that bad? Why do we go so far and all the time, and you want something different all the time, and probably the best times in your life, good conversation, sharing a moment with somebody where the comfortable silence is fine, and some food and different things, that really feels pretty good to me, man. Like, you're not doubting where you're at if you're in your dwelling, and you feel that sense of you're at home. Whether all of us have that sense in our lives these days, I would say many don't. I might be one of them. Like, it's just sometimes that's how life comes at you and how people come at one another, because we're so driven against each other and so driven by some beliefs that aren't supported by this, or your idea doesn't align. But I gotta say, man, when we talk about the planet, right? And when we talk about the earth, is there anything else really more important? The future of the planet. There cannot be anything. You cannot put the dollar in front of it. You cannot put God in front of it. You cannot put anything in front of that. That is all we got. This planet, dude. And that's why I mean, in some songs, dude, I got the lines, man. I mean, I can't help but say it, Where are you going in such a hurry? Did you find the finish line? You see it, huh? Because we've been racing like we've been running out of time. And our children will be left to worry. Because so many of the mistakes we make, we had not given enough time, trial, and error to the situation and what might happen afterwards. From taking, at one time they said you couldn't take too much fish from the sea. Well, we did that so many hundreds of years ago. Almost took all the whales. I think some species did go extinct through it all, through the slaughter and the fishing. They're like, they'll never take enough, but we've seen the fish depleted. Look at how many streams are in danger of the proper reproduction rate of the salmon that are supposed to run up, and how many dams we put on the rivers. And we don't put a dam on the river with the idea, first and foremost, you will preserve the normal cycle of life. Before you put your dam in there and you try to create this clean energy, you got to have it done where the fish are able to continue their migratory routes and reproduce. How can you take that from the planet? In all honesty, for $1? For money? For energy? I know we need it, but man, you could put, where are our engineers for those moments? We claim, our engineering is amazing and this, and we've done so much. What have you done? You killed so many, the reproduction rates are so far down. Some species are gone. We are in a mass extinction moment in time, and we are accelerating that at a rate that is it's unthinkable in some places. So I got to do a shout out at that at the end of today, and then and finish up on that one argument I had with one guy. And I kind of like the argument. I like to hear those things say back. And some arguments too are that the green people, right? So the people that want the solar and the people that want the wind and the people that want the, they're doing this for money. That's the only reason we're doing any of this. It's not because we needed to. It's not because if you ever lived in LA or drove by LA. I never lived there. Dude, I drove by on my motorcycle one time. It's like a crazy color. When the sun was going down that day, the deep purple, you could see like the and the rest of the, because you're flying by there. And I could see it. And in China, dude, it's so bad at times. And they're scaling back now, but I think they've known so often, so many times. And that the population, the way it keeps growing and we keep taking the more and more habitat, it can't be good. So that's where I end on this COP thing today. If you started back in the beginning of the year with me and follow me through, you'll see my message isn't just about climate change, but it's more about love for the planet, one another, and a future that might look different than what we do. I don't think we have evolved. No. We are beholden to $1, and when we have not proven that we would take care of one another properly. We have proven that there will be 1% of that population that controls the rest of the population, and that's kind of weird. We have shown that. And maybe you'll argue that because I can't say that the 1% controls everything, but it's heavily influential, man. That's 80 million people that have a lot of money, and I think that's probably pretty close to a great influence on the planet. Endless resources, and you worry about very little, except for money, more money, how you're going to make more money. Some of them are philanthropists, and you're trying, but that's all I hear too. Through the conferences, we need money. We need more money. And like the people that are going for renewable energies and trying to slow down, it's not even like within us that we see, oh, that's the problem. Well, how about we take a break for like 20, 30 years? Because like, you're like, that's ludicrous. I would never. And maybe we shouldn't. But what would that be to you? In your mind about the life of the planet? It's nothing. It's not even a measurable moment of a second in time when you start thinking about the world and the universe and all of it, man. It's like nothing. And if it meant for the future generations so far away that they would not have it tough, because there was one generation that said, you know what? I don't have to do any of it. We need food. We need water, guys. Some heat. It's an idea, and that's where I'm at sometimes. But I don't see a real big effort in that. And I don't know what it's like in all the other countries, so how wasteful they are. We are very wasteful here. I've mentioned all that stuff before. I'm gonna jump off the COP thing now, but hit me back. Give me something back. Let's talk. Anybody find Jesus? Sure could use him, guys. I don't believe in God and Jesus and the religions and stuff, but if you found him, I mean, we could certainly use him. I don't say it doesn't exist, and I would always do that in my home, is at the end of any conversation, I don't know for sure. I don't. But I would think most of the evidence we have found out in life points to the idea that the science is pretty well formulated, and the Earth's not flat. It's round. Birds, they're real creatures when you catch them. I mean, they're real. They're as real as everything. So there's some weird stuff you see out there, and it'd be funny if he speaks Hebrew. If you found Jesus, you probably wouldn't be able to speak to him, right? So I think the real Jesus, from what we're told in the book and stuff, he spoke Hebrew, I think, and I don't know anybody that speaks Hebrew, but there is a place on the planet right now that sure could use somebody that could, hey, hold on. All right, everybody settle down. Let's get some bread, sit down. There's a couple places on the planet where that could be. Wow, how we really could use that. And then, did anybody find out about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence? How all that stated that we would end up doing life this way? I don't think so. It wasn't an outline for how we're going to financially control one another and dictate to each other how this happens. I believe most of those documents had to do with it's going to be fair for everyone. For everyone, it'll be fair. But it hasn't happened that way, and I don't think we've really put forth the effort. At times we use a lot of the words and stuff, some that are smarter than others, man. Anyway, it'd be cool to hear some stuff back. Get ready for Christmas, and they call this the season of peace and love and joy. So be it then. I got plenty of things I just mentioned that, could use peace, love, joy, all that stuff. I pretty much sing about all of it. Whether I'm coming at you hard with it or I'm coming at you with a poem of just being happy with one another and or with the earth. And I really hold on to that. I hold on to that for hope for us. More conversations and not feeling like at the end of the conversation you lost one. Or especially like yesterday. and I don't want to stay out there too long. I kept most of the conversations pretty short. But I think it's pretty amazing, like nobody knows about it. That's really weird. To me, it's weird, but that's okay. I mean, they've done it 28 years. Trump, one year, he just didn't even, I'm not going. And they'll say Biden didn't go neither. Kamala went. That's the vice president of the United States of America. I mean, I hear her get downplayed, in these ads. We have to stop that as a people, looking at just the headline and being like, yeah, well, she doesn't do anything. They won't let her do anything. I don't know exactly how that is. I think she was a district attorney in California, so I don't know, man. Maybe you get to that position just by not knowing much. I don't know for sure, but anyway, get ready for the holidays however you do it, dude. Whether you celebrate Jesus' birthday, wouldn't you think? I mean, all these years we've been celebrating his birthday. Where is the birthday boy? You said he's alive, in some of the texts. It's fine. Maybe he went into hiding, damn. Last time you killed me, dude. You think I'm coming out to help you? Right? That's definitely where you might be at, dude. Like, no way. Man, I so tried to help you, dude, and you were so mad at me. That's what he would, I am not going anywhere. I'm staying right here in my little oasis that I got, or wherever he is. It's so funny, Help us! Help you what? But if you can't take that laughter and that stuff, you should say so back to me. That's offensive. Fine. Okay. I don't care one way or the other, but I do not intend to. When I think about any of that, dude, if there's any God or anything, the last thing he worries about is like totally what I'm saying, and more of like what I'm doing and what I'm trying and the feelings I share. And none of us are perfect, none of us got this right, but I don't worship any of that. If anything, I worship the planet and the hope that we will one day set all of that aside, our differences and stuff. That's just something to me that you get to do on your own. It's a privilege. If you want to believe in God, you can believe in God. Great, dude. And you believe in Jesus, and that's fine, dude. That's like your rights. That's okay. But if it dictates policy and a way of life we're going to live, I would have a problem with that. I think amongst ourselves, we are able to come up with a collective idea between us that is going to provide the best future for our people, and not next generation, but many generations away. And everyone's counts, so putting the effort in there. Get through with these holidays, dude, and have a good time. Maybe it's going to be hectic for you. It won't be for me. I'll be taking it easy. And, throw something back. It's a long one, I know, but I got to end on that COP somewhere, man. And I can't believe how we do stuff sometimes and then just, I don't know. Late. Peace.